TTC Train Canada. We're a privately owned Canadian company, been in business 23 years. We're a Microsoft Gold partner, one of 3 in Canada. As I say, we're national in all major cities, delivering courses in English and French. We have guaranteed to run policy, which is the best in the industry when it comes to technical courses as well as end-user training. We'll run a course, Microsoft's technical course, with a minimum of 3 students, which is an industry lead. Some of our key partners, obviously Microsoft, IBM, ESI for business skills, Mile2 for IT security, Ahead Technology for ITIL training, and obviously Prometric for providing exams. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our facilitator today, Don Ackles. He's a Microsoft certified trainer, SharePoint instructor and developer, MCTIP.NET SQL Server, and just an awesome guy. So I'll pass it over to Don Ackles.
Hello everyone. Let me clear out some stuff here so we get into it. That's what I want. So what we're going to be looking at today is securing content within SharePoint, and we will be doing this within the setup where I'm using. Rather, is I've got a domain controller running in the background, and we will be pulling my users in from the we're going to adjust something here. Pulling the users in from Active Directory. Okay, so let's get going. So I'm logged in right now as a SharePoint administrator. So it gives me the level to do this, whether you're doing this from an administrative level as a collection or a site level, or you're coming in as the farm administrator, which is where I'm coming in. So right now, I'm going to site permissions. Go ahead, because I'm not sure how that works. Just a sec, we're going to have a technical intervention here. We seem to have some people can't quite hear the audio. Go back to your slide. Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay, so here we're having some audio problems. So once the host starts the conference, which we've done, you should be getting a pop-up on your screen. So select yes to join in for the audio. If you didn't get the pop-up, you can also go to Communicate, Integrated Voice Conference, Join Conference. You can see that in the screen below. Okay. And again, just about feedback, but just follow those steps. I'll just leave the screen up for 10 or 15 more seconds. We can get going.
Okay, welcome back. Hopefully everybody can hear us now, and I will go back into my virtual machines. So I'll start again in terms of this. I'll go back up to where I came in. I'm logged in currently as a SharePoint farm administrator. This can be accomplished either from the administrative level at the site or site collection level. Okay. depending on those permissions. Well, coming in at that gives me access to the site permissions themselves. From in here, this is what was set up in the site by default. Right now, we have no users added to any one of these groups. The groups are assigned various levels of permissions, which we will come in and take a look in a little later in this seminar. So the first thing I have to do is grant permissions, and I'm going to grant permission to an existing user within the Active Directory. In the background behind the window you're seeing is another server running, which is serving as my domain controller. There we go. So the domain controller is Contoso, and what I'm going to be doing is adding a user called Sanjay. Sanjay, in this context, is the CEO of this Contoso.com. So simply type in their username, Sanjay S, and verify it. So I've got everything typed right. I've got this. Perfect. So within Sanjay, what I need to do is make sure that I've got him being added as a contributor. As I add him as a contributor, he will now have read and write permissions within this intranet IT site. So this is a sub-site underneath the internet Contoso.com site collection. Right? So, right, do this, click OK, and there is the contributor group, permission levels is set to contributor, and there's Sanjay. If when click from here, and I'll go in and verify this, and the username is going to be Contoso, as you saw me. JS, and we'll be using the ubiquitous password. And oh. And so I'm now into Sanjay. I've changed, you can see my permissions levels appear. When you're in a contributor, you can see new page if this has been enabled, the SharePoint workspace, anything is possible, and able to view all site content, so including, in this case, the shared documents. Okay? And of course, if I here, new document, so I'm going to cancel this in brevity and go and add a task much faster. And new item. My item, we can add for the rest of it. I'm just going to leave it at my item right now. We have a start date, due date, and there it is. Okay. So I'm going to log back out as from Sanjay and log back in as SPadmin, which means I'm going to have to start this again. Internet sites, Contoso, and I'm automatically coming in as SharePoint administrator here because that's how I'm logged into the box overall. Okay. So if I go back in, site actions, site permissions again, okay, and if I go to technology workers, technology owners, code members. Go here. Alright, so we still have Sanjay, and I'm going to go back up one level. People and groups. Go back up to this. permissions. If I go to grant another user, okay, and again add another user, and this time we're going to add somebody by the name of Jeff L. Verify it. Always remember to verify it. Okay. And within here, I'm going to add him as a visitor. So this is the visitors. Read, can only do read. Okay. So there's my visitors, and there's Jeff. So now if I were to sign in as Jeff, I would be able to read what's on the site, but I would not be able to add any new content. Okay. Okay. There's any number of these permission levels. You see me add 2 people to it. I'll just navigate back up to information technology and go back into here and into site permissions. Okay. The permission levels, as I mentioned before, right, it can be set from within here, right. If you recall from the previous screen, we saw contribute, which is I added Sanjay to, right. We have full control, that's at an administrator level. Okay. Design, view, add updates. If I click on design, right, it takes me into all the permission levels available. Yeah, in here. There's a set of 32, 33 of them, and they're categorized along the lines of list permissions. So anything that has to do with managing a list, okay, from creating, deleting lists. Right. So when we talk about a list, we're talking about libraries, calendars, tasks. Okay. Override checkout. Checkout is a function within SharePoint that allows people to check out a document and edit it. So it's equivalent to locking it. So while that document is out, others cannot check it out and go out and edit it and overwrite somebody else's changes. And this is obviously set up for a sharing type of environment. The one issue that's been addressed in 2010 over 07 in terms of this checkout is you can now give certain permission levels to users to override the document that's checked out. We're warning on this one. If you check a document back in that's been checked out by another user, that user's changes are lost. Okay. And down here, so in terms of adding item, editing item, deleting item, right, viewing items. Okay. I'm actually going to go now and come back in. I'll come back in here within the next little while again. But we're going to come in and start defining a custom group. Because what we have here right now this is the design. These are the permissions that go with design. If I come back up one level, like permissions, right? If I come in and take a look at the owners, owners, permission levels for the owners, right? Well, I'm going to come in and look at full control. Full control, everything is selected. Yeah. So this is full control. This is administrative level work. Okay. This can be restricted, various levels of different administration. Right? We're just looking at a default. Remember, these are the default levels that we're coming in and using. If I want to create a group, okay, come in, we'll call a custom security group. when you create a group, all groups must have an owner. And because I'm logged in as the SharePoint administrator, I automatically default to this, sorry. Below that, I can allow users, or you can allow users to view membership of the group. Right now it's restricted to group members. So if you're a member of the group, you can see other members. Or you can open it up to be seen by everybody. Editing, group members or group owner. Right? Depending on your particular situation, that's the way you're going to take a look at that one as well. I'll allow requests to leave or join. Right now, both of this is set to no. This one and auto accept. All requests to join and leave the group have to go through the group owner. And then within that, if I select yes, now here this becomes open, auto accept, submit membership to group, you're there, right? If it's auto accept to no, then all the requests must go through this, which is my address as I'm the group owner right now. I'm going to just put these back to no. That's typically the way it works. Okay. I can give permissions to the site right now from here, whether it's any of these. This is full control. This gets very redundant right here. Right. I'm going to set it to read and click create. Okay. Because I define the group, I'm automatically a member of the group. And of course we can add whoever we need to that. I go back up to information technology, site action, site permissions, right? There we can see a customer group. Right, so I'm going to select this time, and I'm going to go and edit the permission levels. Okay. And I'm going to add a permission level to it this time. And custom permissions. Okay. It's always a good idea to get a description. You might want to try to avoid what I call the Friday to Monday morning syndrome, in case you forget what you've done. Now, like I pointed before, select all. That's full control. Now, as I can move through some of these, if I select check, override, or override checkout, see what happens? I'll do it again. We end up adding other permissions by default. When you're overriding the checkout, you need to be able to view items. You need to be able to view pages. Right? Pages can be added as a document can be added to it. And you need to be able to open the website. Website list folder. Right, in order to access anything in the container. Other than that, everything is obviously deselected. Okay. I'll just keep this level. Click create, and there's my custom permissions. Right. And I've now set this. This website has unique permissions in this case. I'm going to go back up to permissions, custom group, settings. I'm going to come back in now and view the group permissions. And there we've got, this is the view permissions for the custom security group. If you recall, I set it to full control. Yeah, okay. That's all I really wanted to do at that point. Now I'm going to go back again. Do this again. Now the group, I'll leave all the everything default. This time I'm going to set it right here. When you fill out the description, this page will actually read that description box and give it back to you. I didn't put anything in there so it lands. Again, I'm in this SharePoint administrator because I created the group. And I'll go this way this time. Site permissions, site settings, grant permissions, and Antozo. I'm going to add Jeff L to this group, and there's another. Alright, that's the one I've added. Created with that restricted permissions. And Jeff was added as a visitor here. Now, one of the things, and the reason I've gone this route in doing it this way, Jeff has permissions both as a visitor and as within my custom group. Okay. Back to site permissions here, and I will pick up my custom security group and check the permissions on it. So this is full control and read. No, sorry, Jeff is here. All right. So Jeff, again, Jeff L. Verify lead user. Check now. So Jeff has what's cumulative permissions here. So not only can Jeff come in and just read as a visitor, right? Jeff would also have the ability to come in and force a check-in back in on a checked out document. Okay? So it's something that has to be very well thought out and managed in a way that's going to make sense, right? In terms of security, these things are additive. Okay? If I go now, that's how we're adding users in and out. Okay? If I go back up to the document library, for example, library settings. Okay? This is where I'm going to end up affecting everything that has to do with this particular library. Okay. Now, I'm actually in on the settings, and you can see permissions can be managed from within here. Right, I click on this. Now, this is the thing with SharePoint. Because this site, the IT site, is under the site collection, and this works whether it's a site under a site, or a site collection under a site collection, etc. I end up inheriting permissions from the site or site collection above it. Right? You can see, these are you can see my custom security group I've added here, so these are all within here. If I want to break this inheritance, I can stop inheriting the permission right here. Okay. And the warning pops up. Select OK. Okay. And now this library has unique permission. So if a user has permission at a site above this, right, and then they come down to this site, they will have the permissions associated with this one, but not the permissions associated at the site above it. Okay. And we can go in and modify this. Right, we've got. I click on the custom group. There's a guy again. I can add a user from in here, right? The same window we've seen every time. Except in this time, I'm adding directly to this custom security group. I'll leave it at that for that. Now I'm going to come back up to information technology again. I'm going to go back into my tasks this time, because I have an item in here. This is why I want to come into this one. And from the drop-down menu here, I can now actually manage permissions within this. So I'm inheriting from the parent. Remember, the parent now is the IT site, right? Because I've already disinherited this site from the level above it. Okay? If I wish to give people access and only access to this particular item in tasks, I stop inheriting permissions from the list above. Okay? Now, right now, I've got all these guys set in here. So Sanjay I added in as contribute, right? Remove. No, I would just remove one group. Rather tedious way of doing it, right? Select them all, the ones I want to remove. Let me make sure that Sanjay is still only one in here. Okay. I'm going to go back up to my information technology site. And because I'm in as the administrator, I can still see it. I'm going to sign in as a different user this time. Remember good old Jeff. So I'm in as Jeff. I'm in the task list. No task. Sanjay and the site administrator are the only two that can actually see this right now. This process can be reversed quite easily. I'm going to come back in as the SP admin this time, so another account. Zone. Admin. So there's the items back, because obviously I'm in as administrator. Right. My item, manage permissions, right? And this site has unique permissions. I'm about to inherit from the parent folder. The groups are automatically repopulated because I'm pulling them down from the site. Okay. If I go back up again to well, I'll come back in this way again if you want. Or I'm going to navigate around them. Okay. So some content in this site has unique permissions. Right? Show me the uniquely secured content. Okay. Shared documents. Right. Click on Manage Permissions here. Right. So this one has unique. Inherit the permissions from above. And we're in. So we're coming in from the top level again. Oops, no, that's not what I wanted. Oh yeah, try not to use the browse button, browse back button. SharePoint tries to keep everything in a session cache, and sometimes that cache can be a little flaky. So there's this within the site permission level. So what you've seen as me playing right now is with here, okay, within this site permissions here, right? The same type of idea. Okay. So this is who can log into or access the site coming through. The best words I can leave you with in terms of all of this is that managing the processes here of permissions, assigning people to these permissions is best accomplished through careful planning before you even open up SharePoint. There are other ways of managing this at the site admin level. SharePoint provides a service at the site admin level called Secure Store Service. Right? Once you've set up the Secure Store service, you use another service called the BCS, Business Connectivity Service, to interface with that to bring users to your site. Okay? It's one way in terms of this. What we've been also looking at in the context, the overall context of what you've seen today is this has been relying on NTLM, authentication. SharePoint also supports what's called claims-based authentication. It's also known as federated services. Ever used a Google account, a Gmail account, a Basemail account to log into another site? That's the best example I can give in terms of a federated service. Federated services are best looked at if you are considering having a mixture of internal and external users through an extranet SharePoint site. So you're able to give people coming in from the outside permissions, exactly as I've shown you now, to lists, libraries, and documents, and items within the documents and the lists categories, if you will, as well as have a separate control for your internal access people. Yes, I can. I think there's a question. Oops. Okay, the question is, how do you set permissions so users can create new document libraries and add documents only, not set permissions off? Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'm just going to go and look at permission levels, and we'll just go in and take a review of that. Can I get the question back? Okay. So within here, right, so I've got the list permissions, right? So these are within the list, okay? So adding items, so we want to be able to use there to create a new document, we need to have add items, right? If you don't wish them to set permissions or manipulate pages, I'm assuming these are pages, web pages. That's a good one. Open, version, delete. That's going to be customized in a different way. Part of it would be restricting the customization of web part pages inside the document libraries, so not allowing them to edit. Approve items, open items. The way this is set up within here, right, is that they will not be able to do it. In terms of adding users, right, that's at a site permission level, right? So if there's nothing allowed here, right, they will not be able to accept permissions at the library level. The pages, now the other way of dealing with that would be to allow or set up an approval process. So you restrict what they can do in terms of editing, and then pages that are added by a particular user or any user within a library, whether it's a page library or document library or task library, will have to run through the approval process, and that can be set up as a workflow. It can also be set up from within just the list. If people with is added to an approvers list, right-click and approve to it. And we have another one. The question on this one has got to good context here. They're going to be migrating from 03 to 2010. The staff moves around a lot, and they need to remove them from groups when they leave. Does the check permissions apply to all groups that the user is a member of in the complete set collection? Yes, if you recall, when I checked the permissions on Jeff Lowe, when I selected Jeff Lowe in there and went, just go back. I go back to site permissions. If I recall, I put Jeff Lowe into here. Right. So I'm going to view, well, this is actually my group permissions. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. So if I go, Jeff is in here. So this is, when I come in this way, this is a little, the language is a little iffy on it. Alright, because I saw me select this, and I'm actually going to put Jeff in here. Tozo, / Jeff L. Verify him. Check now. So I've got read through the information technology feature, and then that custom one I added to them, given through the other group permission levels. And I think that wraps it up for the day. I thank everyone. I hope you've gotten something from it. And as Rick had indicated, questions can be forwarded to CTC, and they will be answered. And I will now give you back to Rick.
Hi everybody. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the session. If you go to our events page, you can actually download the session in a couple of days. If you have any questions, you can send them to sales@traincanada.com. That's sales@traincanada.com, and we'll get them answered for you. And if you would like to join any more sessions, just go to the traincanada.com agenda page, and you can book in some more sessions. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we appreciate you guys coming out.